Hi there kit fans, Louise with you today. Thanks for checking out this video. I started with something completely different in mind, and it's all to do with the ephemera pack from Tim Holtz. I found it quite a struggle. I am not normally an embellisher with this type of pieces. So you can see I've sorted out my piles. I've got butterflies, the mushroom or fungi, and then some of the florals and a couple of the little bugs. So I wanted to think a little bit outside the square of how I could potentially inspire you to use this ephemera. And I saw these little frame pieces and thought, why not make some clusters? But secondary to that cluster part was I thought about how I could turn the ephemera into something that really suited my scrapbooking a little bit more. And it's not that I dislike this, the mushrooms or the florals. They just don't have the same color palette to what I would normally use in my scrapping. And if that's the same for you, then I hope you'll get something out of this video. And how it starts is you can see that I've cut the little frames and I'm simply working my way around adding some layers. So overlapping a few of the pieces, trying to combine some of the florals with some of the other fungi. And once I'm happy with this as sort of a background, I'm going to actually coat them with a little bit of gesso. So I'm using the white gesso, and that's going to help me have a base to work with. So first of all, kind of muting them. I know it sounds weird that I want to brighten them up, but to do that, I have to mute them first. So I'm actually using that white gesso just to break them up that little bit and tone down the particular palette that they come in. And then I'm going to actually use my watercolors to paint over them and give them a slightly different color. So never sort of feel like you are stuck with something that particularly doesn't suit the way you craft or the way you use items, because there's always a way to change things up. And if you've got gesso and color in your stash, you could do this in a number of ways. So you could do it with crayons, you could do it with colored pencils. I happened to just see my watercolor palette sitting there and decided that that was going to work for me. And you can see straight away how this actually changes that ephemera and the way it looks that little bit different, just with a bit of extra color. Now in my clusters, I have made a little piece and sat it up on some foam mounts, and that's to give a bit of dimension between the background and the little area of interest. So popping some cotton over the top and then using some foam tape and a little bit of tacky glue just to add those little bit extra. Now this process I actually repeated 3 times off camera, and I did not start with this layout in mind of using the 3 pieces, but as I laid them down, so once I'd cleaned up my mess and actually laid them down, the 3 pieces that I'd made, when they were all lined up, I actually really liked how it looked. I think, it really suited an actual finished layout. I was also very lucky that already printed in my stash, I had these set of 3 photos from Master Cooper when he went to school camp, and they did a lot of outdoor activities. I happily poached them off the school's Facebook page, and they just worked perfectly. So I got really lucky in terms of the photo subject and the fact that I'd already printed them in the 3x4. They fit perfectly in these little frames. And I'm just going to pop some cardboard behind just to mount them up a little bit. So I really love this. I think that the little clusters are quite busy against the background, against the photos, and I don't really need too much in this particular layout. So I want to keep it fairly clean and bright with that white background. But I'm going to give myself sort of a semi-border. I'm going to work on this torn strip of the wood grain paper, which again, the wood grain is perfect for this sort of ephemera and the little pieces and the frames and the subjects that I've got going on. So the sort of rustic wood grain piece works really well for the direction that this layout kind of took all on its own. All right, I do love this particular title sheet. I love a title that's really simple where I don't have to think about it too much. I can just pick a word and really just add that to the layout without having to take in too much thought or stick down too many letters. I am going to build sort of a semi-cluster with the title down in this bottom right hand section and tuck my journaling on that little piece as well. So this layout kind of just developed, and it's really nice when you can sort of have a layout that comes together without you having to work too hard, particularly if a collection is not what you would normally work with. And this rustic sort of lots of browns and warm tones really tested me, but I do love the layouts that I put together. I think there's something so different in my album. So never be afraid to sort of take on the challenge of something that might be a little bit outside of your comfort zone. All right, now the final thing that I'm sort of toying up here is what I'm going to do in the background. I don't like how sort of harsh it looks, the white behind it. So I toyed briefly with the idea of just a few little splatters. I thought about, just what it needed, some smushing technique. I went with stenciling, and I actually really wanted my wood grain stencil, but do you think that I could find it? It has seriously disappeared. And so I pulled a couple that I thought maybe would work, and I ended up going with the bricks and using a couple of different brown distress inks. I couldn't even tell you what they're called, but there's all different ones there, and I'm going to just blend them with my blending brush lightly and just spread a little bit of sort of brown into that background, and just give those photos something to sit on. It didn't need to be too much. I knew I wanted it to be sort of textural, but I really like how this turned out, particularly those clusters. So I certainly hope that this has inspired you to have a bit of a go at any one of these techniques, whether it's using the ephemera to build some clusters, whether it's stenciling a background or changing something with some gesso and some paint or watercolors. You can really have some fun with some of the products available out there on the market. All right, once I'm happy with my background, I'm going to stick everything down using tacky glue, of course. I've already included my journaling on that little hidden tag, but essentially that's my second share for the month. I hope that you enjoyed. It is quite different, but I really like how it came together. And if you're inspired, I would love to see your take on this kind of layout. So thank you so much for visiting, and I hope you enjoyed.